All right, thank you everybody for coming. My name is Maryanne Angliongto. We were just talking about how to pronounce my name. And I'm the Associate Dean of Math, Physics, and Technology. And what I'm going to be talking about today is how to be successful in math and science classes. And I'm an Associate Dean, but a little bit about me is that I have a background in math and science. So I have a degree in electronics, I have my bachelor's degree in astrophysics, and I have a master's degree in physics. So I have had to take a lot of math and science classes. And especially the math, I didn't always like the math classes I was taking, but I had to learn how to succeed in them and move on to what I really wanted to do. So what I'm going to talk about today is kind of in three different parts. So the first part is overcoming mental blocks. So there's some things that we come in to college classes with, some ideas that may be not helpful. So we want to overcome some of those mental blocks. The second part is putting in the time and effort. And in part two, I'm going to talk about why we need to put in a lot of time and effort into math classes and science classes just to be successful. And then the third part, how to do it. What do we actually have to do in class, in a math class, in a science class, in order to be successful? So first part, let's talk about some of our ideas about math and science classes that may be faulty, may not be helping us a lot. And in my role as Associate Dean, I get students coming in who have complaints about some of their instructors, and so I hear a number of things about their experience in math and science classes. So the first one is, I want to point out, is that you are responsible for your success. Your instructor is not responsible for you to succeed in the class. It is totally your responsibility. And one of the things I hear a lot from students is that, well, I'm failing my math class because my instructor is really bad. That is a faulty idea because you have lots of resources at your fingertips, and your instructor is really only one of those resources. So if you think about you're on a hike and you're in a group and the group is going to climb up to the top of a mountain. So you have a guy, a trail leader, that's your instructor. So they're there to lead the way, to help anybody who has trouble. But as the group member, you are there to do the actual work. They are not there to carry you up the mountain. You have to put one foot in front of the other. And so there are a lot of resources that you have in order to be successful in math and science classes. So one, you do have the instructor. That's a very important resource, probably the first one you should be going to. But you also have a lot of other options to get help. So on campus, we have the Academic Success Center, and there you can have drop-in tutoring, either with a professional tutor, so that's going to be one of our math instructors, or a part-time math instructor who is there to help you with any homework, math homework you may have. We also have peer tutoring. So this is tutoring with a student who has been successful in the class that you are taking. So that may be an option if you feel intimidated about coming and asking an instructor for help. You have a peer, you have someone who is kind of in the same boat as you, who may be able to help you, maybe relate to you a little bit better, maybe know kind of where you're getting stuck because they got stuck in the same places. So at the end, I'll show you where to access and how to get the schedule for the Academic Success Center. Another resource you have is the textbook. They're expensive. You paid for it. Use it. It's a very important resource. Homework assignments. It doesn't sound like that would be a resource for your success, but the reason that we assign homework is to get you engaged with the material. The only way that you can successfully learn how to do math and science problems is to do math and science problems. You can't just watch somebody do it and that's going to work for you. So you need to do the homework. I'm going to talk a lot more about what to actually do with your homework. Another resource you have are study groups. So if you make some friends in your class, or you already have friends in your class, you can get together and talk about the material, work on homework together, answer each other's questions. That's a really good resource. And the internet. It's good for more than just finding the actual answers to your specific homework problems. I forgot to bring it in, but back in the days when dinosaurs roamed the earth, I was a college student and we didn't have the internet. I know that's crazy, but we didn't have instant access to information like we do today. So I would be in my math and science classes and I would have the textbook and I would look at the example problems and I would try to look at my homework and try to match those example problems. I eventually bought these big, huge books that had hundreds of solved physics problems and math problems. And I would look at my homework, I'm like, okay, it's talking about forces. Then I would go to this other book and I would look through and I'm like, okay, this is talking about forces. I'd have to figure out what that problem is, how they solved it, and then try to apply that to my homework. So now, with the internet, we have so many more resources than we did. So you can find online lectures. So if you are in a class, and it happened to me many times where it was a wow, 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 I don't know what they're talking about, you can go online and let's say the topic of the day is factoring in math. You can go online and find other people who are explaining how to do factoring in a way that may make more sense to you. You have also example homework problems done. I know a lot of students, you're short on time, you're like, I don't know the answer, I'm just going to look it up on the internet, put the answer down, move on with my life. And we'll look and see in a few minutes why that's not a great option. But whatever you need to do, any of these resources, whichever ones work for you, those are the ones that you need to be using. Another thing I hear a lot about is fear of failure, or fear of asking for help, because it makes you look weak. So if I ask for help, I will look dumb, and that will just prove that I am a failure because I don't have this all figured out. So that is faulty reasoning. So you are in school to learn something new that you don't know yet. That's why we're all here in college. So if you already knew everything and you had it all figured out, you wouldn't have to be here. You could just test out of the class and you can move on to other things. So the only failure is really failure to ask for help. If you need help, if you're confused, go to these different resources. Ask your classmates for help. Ask the instructor. Go get a tutor. Go online. See how other people are doing these problems. Because you are responsible for being successful. You have lots and lots of resources. You need to make use of them. And I like this quote from Jack Canfield, that everything you want is on the other side of fear. So if your goal is to get a degree, you're going to have to overcome a lot of emotional things that are uncomfortable. But it's there waiting for you. Another comment I get a lot is from people who are not going into science, not going into technology or engineering. They're like, I am never going to use this math class ever again. I am never going to think about physical science ever again. That may be true. You may never use the quadratic equation ever again in your life after your math class. But you are going to use your reasoning skills that you learned in that class. You are going to use the problem solving that you learn in math class and science classes. You are going to use that self-motivation to get through, to find answers, to overcome what's going on in your life. And learning how to learn. I think a lot of people come out of high school now and they've never really had to struggle with material. So I have a lot of students who, if they can't figure it out after about 5 seconds, they just go, oh, I don't know. I can't do it. Learning takes time. Sometimes you have to wrestle with things. It's kind of like, and I'll use this analogy later, working out. You know, if you're trying to train for a marathon, the first time you go out running, you may be winded after half a mile. That doesn't mean you stop and I give up. You just have to keep going and push yourself. Another strange comment I get is from students that are like, well, why are we talking about this? I didn't learn this in high school. Yeah, I know, because you're in college now and there's more to learn outside of high school. So the high school curriculum did not prepare you at a very minimum level to understand the world around us. Very minimal, try to be conscientious citizens of this world, and that's about it. So there's a lot more out there. There's a lot more to understand, a lot more to know past your high school experience. So college, as you're finding out, is a lot different than high school. Okay, so part 2. So putting in time and effort. So why can't I just sit in class, show up, write down some things? Why is that not enough for math and science? Couple of reminders. One of the reasons why you have to put in a lot of time and effort is that a full college load is a full-time job. So if you're taking 15, 16 credit hours, realistically, in order to be successful, the expectation is you're spending a lot of time outside of class to do homework, to study, to review. And I know there's a lot of marketing out there that says you can have a full-time job and take a full class load, and you can have a family, and you can do it all. That's not, you can do it all, but you can't necessarily do it all well. So if you are working full-time and trying to take a lot of classes, you have to be very diligent with your time management. So if you're not spending like 6 to 8 hours a week outside of class on your math and science classes, then you're probably not spending, sometimes you just have to dedicate some time to it. And another point that I want to make very clear is that your brain is a muscle, and the homework assignments you get are your workout. So imagine you are on a workout routine and you do one push-up. Are you going to get buff? Are you now fit? No, of course not. Because working out is a repetitive process. You have to do it every day. You have to push yourself. You have to do it more than once. It's all about the reps. That's how your muscles get strong. The same thing happens with math and science. You need the repetition. You need to do homework problems. If you're assigned some homework problems and you do them, that's your one push-up. You're not going to get math and science fit just doing one push-up. You're going to have to repeatedly go over those assignments over and over again. Or another analogy is, let's say you want to learn to play an instrument like the guitar. If you just sit there and watch the most accomplished guitar player play guitar, you're not going to learn how to play guitar. You have to physically pick up the guitar and start from the beginning. So just sitting in a math class, just sitting in a science class, and okay, I did the homework, I looked up the answers on the internet, I put them down, I got my 100%. That is not enough to be successful because you have not worked with the material enough. You have not done enough workout for your math and science curriculum. And you want to repeat the homework or the homework problems to the point where it becomes recall instead of reasoning. So a lot of people have test anxieties because they haven't put the processes that math problems have into recall. They're trying to figure it out as they go. And so, for example, so if you had a test question that said 1 + 1 = 2, that's recall. You didn't have to think about it. You didn't have to go, okay, 1 finger, 2. You didn't have to think about it. Or fill in the blank. So the eye of the tiger. You didn't think about it. You didn't, okay, what has eyes? Okay, we have eyes, animals have eyes, fish have. So that's recall. That's what you want to aim for in terms of you see a math problem, you instantly know what to do. You don't have to, if you're in a test, you're like, oh, I saw that about 2 months ago. What was it that I had to do? Did I have to divide or add? That's not enough preparation. So you want to make it so that it's recall. You don't want to be in a math test trying to reason your way out of it. So for example, the question, what role did World War I have in causing the Second World War? That's a reasoning question. You have to think about all of the different factors in your head and then put them together. That is not where you want to be in a math test. You want to be able to say, oh, here's the math problem. I've done a number of these. I know what the procedure is. I'm just going to do the procedure because a lot of math problems, it's just you have to learn what the procedure is. There's a process. First you do this, then you do this, and you just write. But a lot of it is just getting that repetition so you feel comfortable and you're not anxious about it anymore because you've done it enough. All right. So we talked about some of the ways that we psych ourselves out of math and science classes. We just hopefully gave you some motivation to understand why you need to put a lot of time and effort into it using your math and science muscles. So let's look at some specifics of what you can do in class to be more successful. And you may be doing some of these things already. So step 1, go to class. There's some obvious reasons for that. But you also, and get there on time, get there early. Because at the beginning of class, I know that I, as an instructor, would start off the class with an overview of what we're going to talk about that day. And I would give reminders of upcoming assignments, maybe give some instructions if things have changed from what was posted before. Those are usually going to happen at the beginning of class. So you want to get to class on time. And you'll also, a lot of times at the beginning of the class, they'll ask questions. Do you have any questions about the assignment from last time or last time's lecture? And then somebody may be brave enough to ask a question. Then you get the benefit of hearing those answers. So get to class on time. Think about how you best absorb information. So you've probably heard that there are different learning styles. Some people like to read things. That's how they gain information. Some people like to hear things or have things spoken to them. Some people like to physically work with things. Some people like to work in groups. They process things better if they talk it out. Some people can't do that. So they need to be alone when they're working. So you've probably figured some of this out already in your academic life. So for me personally, I am a solitary learner. When I'm in groups trying to learn things, I just get confused. So I like to learn by myself. And I am auditory learner. So I like to have things either spoken to me or read to me. So what I do in my classes that I've taken is, especially recently with new technology, is I try to get the ebook and then have the ebook read to me. So I can do that on my computer or on my phone. So and I just know that about myself. And personally, I don't have a lot of time to sit around and read a textbook. Does that make me lazy? I don't know. Maybe I'm just too multitasking. But I go for walks and I listen to the textbook, and I'm driving home and I listen to the textbook. So I know that about myself, so I'm going to try to get access to resources that I can get the information read to me. So if you are a more visual learner, you may not really like your class because you don't really absorb material from hearing, but pay attention to the textbook, focus on the text reading. Or if you are social and you need to work with other people to learn things, then set yourself up. Try to find a group of students where you can do that.
Let me ask a question?
Sure.
So I think we might have in our office some resources if students want to find out what style is best for them. I mean, they may know that intuitively, but maybe they don't.
Okay, so they can ask their
sure,
advisor.
Ask your advisor, and I mean, if I am your advisor, you can certainly ask me, and I will help any way I can. But I'm sure all the other advisors would do the same thing.
Okay, so asking your advisor to get some tests on figuring out what kind of...
send them some links. There's some free things out there. At least would give a general idea of what direction to go.
That's a good idea. Another suggestion is to create a weekly schedule. So put all of your classes onto a schedule. Put all of your other work obligations, family obligations, other things that are going on in your life. And then also put in times to study for specific classes. So in this example, you got breakfast at 7 a.m., you got French class at 8, and then you're going to study French from 9 to 10. You have your psych class. Then right after that you have English class, you have some lunch, and then at 1 p.m. you're going to study English, and then from 2 to 4 you're going to study psychology. So that way you don't have to think about it. You don't have to try to motivate yourself to go study. It psychologically just helps you develop that habit. And instead of just trying to figure out, when am I going to study? You know when you're going to study. You're going to study from 1 to 4. And then you have daily reviews. So that is very helpful just to get you into the habit of studying for your classes every day at a set point. That way it gets done. You don't forget about it. Other things don't come in and interrupt you, which is a good habit to get into.
This is something also that, I'm sure we talk about this in College 101. We haven't gotten there yet. But your advisor can help you with this. That's with the new strategy, part of our job is to help students succeed. So that's something that if you're struggling with studying or carving time out, come and see us. That's what we do. So we were more than happy to help on that.
Yeah, so advisors can help setting up a schedule, getting better study habits.
Mm-hmm.
So when in doubt, talk to your advisor.
Talk to your advisor. Yeah.
So taking notes. So as an instructor, I see students, and I see it right now. I see students who write down everything that is on the screen and everything the instructor says. So you spend all of your time writing. So for math and science, you really want to focus on the examples that are done in class. You may want to make some quick notes on topics that are covered and definitions, but really it's the examples that are done in class that are the meat and potatoes. You have a textbook. You can look these things up. You can get more deeper information. It's the examples and having the instructor there to walk through those examples and you being able to ask questions is really the point of you being in class. And working ahead it's hard. It's hard to have that discipline, to have everything else wrapped up in your life so that you actually can work ahead. I know as an undergrad, I had a very hard time. I always intended to work ahead or at least rewrite my notes, and it just didn't happen. So this is a suggestion if you have the time, especially if you're struggling a lot. try to read ahead, but also try to do some of the sample problems in class. So there's a couple reasons for that. One is that when you come to class the next time, you know what you don't know, and you have questions. Even before or as you're talking about it in class, you're like, yeah, I tried that as sample problem. I had a question about this. So it keeps you proactive. It keeps you ahead of the wave of information. And you can get your questions answered on the next homework assignment before you even leave class. So instead of you trying to write down everything, you get home. I mean, you've probably had this experience where it makes so much sense when you're listening to your instructor and you follow what they do. Oh yeah, yeah, oh, that makes sense. Then you go home, you're looking at the same problem, you say, I have no idea what to do with this. So if you do I have no idea what to do with this part before class, then you can get your questions answered. Again, we're all really busy. It's hard to do this, but it's really helpful if you can swing it. Another thing with math and science is a reliance on what the calculator tells you. So you're doing your calculations. It could be chemistry or physics or a math class, and you come up with an answer. The calculator comes up with an answer. You write it down. Take some time just to make sure that the answer at least makes some sort of sense. You may not have a really specific sense of what that number is supposed to be in your head, but 1 plus 1 is not going to equal 98,325. Or if you get a negative and you weren't expecting it, why is it negative? Did I do something wrong? So try to have at least a sense of what would be a range of what would be a reasonable answer. Sometimes it's hard to do that, especially when you're learning how to do the math procedures. It's hard to have an idea of what to expect, but eventually you'll have an idea of kind of like if you're factoring something and you get an answer of 250, well, no math problem is going to have you factor with a factor that is going to equal that large of a number.
This would apply also to the labs in a science
Yes.
class where you do the experiment and instead of the fluid becoming blue, it becomes orange or something like that.
Yeah.
So you have to go back and see, well, did I put the right stuff in the right amounts and or did I dissect this animal the wrong way? Did I make it wrong? Whatever.
Right.
And I think you're absolutely right that you need to look at the answer. I sat in Bob's physics lab the other day, and he had them do a problem, and they came up, there was like 5 different answers they came up with. So that's a great idea to estimate. I think that's why we learned to estimate, so we can kind of have an idea.
Right, or for your measuring, or you're trying to calculate velocity, like the speed of something, and you're like, oh, what was the speed of the car? 98,325 miles per hour. Probably not. Probably not. So here's some tips on doing homework the best way. I don't know if it's the right way. That may not be the best way to say that, but the best way. So again, I mentioned this before, but homework is there as practice. It's for you to engage with the material. It is your workout. So you've got your math or science workout routine, and so you need to do that routine multiple times. So getting the points from the homework, doing it just once is not going to be enough for you to have a full understanding of how to do it on a test. So if you just go through the homework once, you're like done with that, and then you sit in the test, you're not going to have the background to be able to do it. So don't be fooled when you look at your homework grade in a math or science class. You're like, I have an A. Just because you have an A in your homework basically means you did it. You did it once. It's kind of like that one push-up. In order to get an A on the test, that's the result of multiple workouts. So you want to repeat your homework, especially ones that you're having problems with, figure out how to do them, and then repeat them until you can do it automatically without looking at notes or getting help. So if you can just get to the point where like, here's this problem. It's a factoring problem. I know what to do. That's where you want to aim for. You can also test yourself. So your instructor probably has some sort of test review information, but you can make your own test by changing some of your homework problems. Your test is probably going to be, it won't be identical to, but it'll be the same topics, the same procedures as what you did in homework. So you can make your own practice test by taking some homework problems, changing the numbers a little bit, and pretending this is your test. See if you can do it. If you can't do it, that's good, because you know that you don't know it. So it's better to mess it up in the pre-test than during the actual test. So try to make your own practice test, and then you'll know what topics you need to work on more. And then also write down what you did to get the right answer. So you probably had to figure out, okay, I had to do this, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this. If you don't write that down once you figured it out, you come back a couple weeks later to review for the test, and you're like, oh, darn, I don't remember how to do this problem. So just jot down some notes for yourself, how you actually approach those questions. And some math and science classes have pen and paper homework where you write down some answers, you hand it in. Some math and science classes have online homework, so they have My Math Lab or XYZ or Mastering Chemistry, Physics, Astronomy, whatever it is. So if you have paper homework, once you get that homework back, look at what you got wrong and try to figure out what is the correct answer and how do you get the correct answer. And I give you, as Associate Dean, permission to harass your instructor if they have not turned things in a timely fashion. So about a week max is, you can give your instructor time to actually grade it and do it thoughtfully. But if it's been over a week or so and they still haven't graded assignments, that is not good for you, because you need that feedback. You need to know what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. So get your assignments graded, keep asking, hi, when are we getting our test back? When are we getting our test back? When are we getting our test back? Don't have to be rude about it, just persistent. And then ask for help if you don't understand why something's wrong, how to do the problem. Reach out to your resources, talk to the instructor, go to tutoring, talk to your friends in class. Similar with online homework, one advantage of the online homework is that you get instant feedback, mostly, which is good and bad. You're not in suspense if you know something or not. But usually a lot of them have a way to repeatedly do questions more than one time and not have it affect your grade. So make use of that option. So if you do a similar problem or do another problem, take advantage of that. And always ask questions if you're stuck. If you got the right answer, this is the tricky part. You get the right answer on the homework, but you don't know how you did it, which happens all the time. Take the time, figure out, fess up to the instructor, like, I got the answer, but I don't know what I'm doing. So just make sure that you understand what's going on in the homework, because the instructor chose those homework problems for a reason. They're there to train you to get to where you need to go.
The Academic Success Center has online tutoring as well.
That's right.
There's a schedule somewhere.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you can come down to the Academic Success Center. We have ones at Arnold and Hillsborough, and you can access it online. So if you're at home, you get stuck on your homework problems, you can log in and ask one of the tutors.
It's a Google Meet, I think.
It's a Google Meet.
Yeah.
And they have daytime hours, evening hours. For math, there's Sunday hours as well. A couple other tips. Do your, like was in that example of a schedule, do your homework after each class. So just keep working on it. Don't wait, because I know some instructors are really mean. And I say, hey, that's not really helpful for the students. They're like, okay, so there's no due date for the homework. It just has to be turned in by the test.
Yes.
Awful, 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 awful. Mean, mean, mean. So you have other classes. You have other things to do. That is going to get sorted down to the bottom of the pile until it's the night before the class. Then it goes up to the top of the pile and you don't have time to do it. So do your homework after each class. Set aside a time for each of your classes, at least some amount of time, 30 minutes, an hour, that you can look over the notes, start the homework, see if there's any questions that you have. And just like with our workout analogy, if you are training for a marathon, you're not just going to run one day and then be done. This is something you have to do every single day. And so just like that, if you want to train for your math and science marathons, you need to train every single day. The more consistently you do it, the better you will learn. Another tip is to show all of your work. Some people, their brains don't like to work that way, and they just kind of jump to the end. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes if you can't show your work, it means you don't know what you're doing. Sometimes it's just the way you're processing is a little bit different. But it does benefit you because it will allow your instructor to make it easier to grade your assignment. And they can give you more partial credit, which is always a good thing. And when you get that test back, you will be able to follow what you did in order to review for future tests or a final exam. So here's an example of writing out every single step, kind of like what your instructor does in class, where they write it out and it takes forever, but that's helpful. It's helpful for you, and it's helpful for your instructor to give you the highest grade you can. Another thing is, a lot of times we think, if I don't have 3 hours to study, I can't do anything. But we're all busy. We're working. We have lots of classes. We have other stuff going on. We have family obligations. So even if you have small little segments of time, use those to your advantage. So if you have 30 minutes before your next class, go to the library. Open up your book. Start working on some homework. And if you do that, ideally you do want to have some larger chunks of time, but sometimes you just don't. Mm-hmm. And so you need to make the most of the time that you have. You need to take breaks. Your brain is a muscle. It does need breaks. It needs you to stop and relax for a little bit. But if you can make the most of those small chunks of time, go somewhere like the library or some place where it's quiet, you can focus. If you like to work with people, you can work with people. If you get distracted by people, then go hide yourself in the library or somewhere else and just focus on your classes for 20 minutes. And so for studying for tests the right way, or the best way, I guess I should say. So again, quiz yourself throughout the semester. Don't just wait till the night before the test. After you do an assignment, write out how you got the right answer. What was the procedure that you had to do in order to successfully complete those problems? And something that a lot of people struggle with, and I have done as an instructor, is don't just look over the problems and think you remember how to do them. actually go through the process of redoing them, write them out again. So I've made this mistake as an instructor. So when I'm teaching physics and I look over the sample problems I'm going to do in class, I go, oh yeah, I remember that one. Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah. And then I get up in front of the class, I'm like, I don't know. Something's wrong and I don't know what's wrong and it's not working out right. So take the time when you're reviewing, when you're studying, don't just look over the problems, physically do them. Pretend they're test questions and do them. Another problem, especially with math, is that it's all numbers and letters in various ways, and you're going to cover multiple topics in one test. So the homework is going to be very specific. Like, okay, we're factoring in this assignment. We're doing the quadratic equation in this assignment. We're doing whatever other topic in this assignment. But when you take a test, it's going to be all of those jumbled together. So try to make a note of how to recognize each type of problem. So and this is purely personal, like how would I recognize when they want me to factor something? How would I recognize when they want me to solve for something? How is the problem set up so that I know, oh, that's a factoring problem, or oh, that's a statistical analysis problem, or whatever it is. And again, make use of all of the resources you have at your disposal. I would start with your instructor. Usually that's the best place to start. If that doesn't work, it's okay. You have other resources. That doesn't work, try the Academic Success Center. Try to get a peer tutor. If that doesn't work, talk to some of your classmates. See if they can help you and you can help them. That doesn't work, try some online resources. Go to Khan Academy, go anywhere, go to the PBS studios, there's so many options online to get the same material. So math is not specific to your instructor, it is a universal language. So other people have covered this, other people have explained it, other people have very slick videos that you can watch for free. And ask lots of questions. So never be afraid to ask questions. Ask your instructor, ask your tutors, ask your classmates, ask your friends, your family, ask Google, ask whatever resource you need. Please keep asking, and there will be a point where you will get the help that you need if you keep asking. I know from my experience at UCLA as an undergrad, because the classes were so big, there were over 100 students in each class. So usually we had a professor who would do the lecturing, and then we would have a TA, a teaching assistant, who was a graduate student. So usually one of them would speak English well. Usually there would be one that would, and so I will point this out also, is that I've also heard some students come like, Jefferson College is stupid, it's awful, and when I go to my four-year college, it's going to be so much better. You get a lot of, the instructors at four-year colleges are not primarily there to teach. They are there to do research, they're there to bring prestige to the university, they're there to bring in money. They have to teach also. They have to teach your class, but that is not their main focus. So your class experience will probably not improve when you transfer. It will not get better. You'll have some good instructors, for sure. You'll have some great professors, but overall, their focus is not you as an undergrad. They're focused on their graduate students.
This is the point in time, what we do, what we like to do as advisors is help students take control of their education, and this is part of it. Since you're responsible for your success, we want you to be able to advocate for yourself when you transfer. So one of the things, that's one of my objectives with my advisees,
Yeah.
is to help them, take control of things.
And every class, especially math and science classes, I would look at the TA, I would look at the professor. I'm like, who speaks English? Who do I relate to more? And I would go to their office hours. Pretty much all the time. I would go to their office, and office hours aren't bad. They're not like you're in trouble. They're there because if you have questions, they're there to answer your questions. That's what they're there for. So I would go to the professor, or I would go to the TA, and usually one of them would work out great. So make the most, ask as many questions, do what you need to do in order to get your questions answered. So to get the Academic Success Center schedule, if you go to the Student tab in my Jeffco, and then down here where it says Tutoring Services, that will take you to the Academic Success Center website, and you can get you can apply for a peer tutor, you can look at the schedules, here Hillsborough, Arnold online, we have math tutoring, we have also English, psychology, business. We have some IT. We have some other tutors as well. Ooh, that was a lot of information. Do you have any questions? Was this helpful? Was there new things that maybe you didn't hear before?
I like the schedule thing. I do like write assignments what I have to do, but I like how you showed there's specific times to study that. So I'm going to try to work on one pretty soon.
Great. All right. If any other comments?
Thank you.
Thank you.